All right.
Like your face is wilting.
My face is probably wilting. Let's be honest here. All right, so welcome to training. Tonight we're going to go over some world versus world stuff, obviously. So first I want to go through some graphics and interface settings. I don't know, some of it is personal preference, right? But I feel like some of us are using too high graphics and we're kind of losing track of where things are. So I want to briefly go over that kind of stuff. Then I'm going to go over some movement stuff and do a little bit of practice here. And then kind of go over some roles in basic squad formations. And we'll do some call-outs and practice. And then I want to get into kind of the specifics of the different roles that we've got here. So I know a lot of people signed up for the Dragonhunter, a couple for the Power Herald, and so on. So I'm going to briefly go over the stuff that nobody wanted, like just real brief, this is what they do. If you got questions, I will do my best to answer, and then we'll get kind of a little deeper into the ones that everybody picked. Okay. After that, if time permits, maybe we can jump into some world versus world. I'm not expecting that we'll be able to do that, but we'll see. And then if you have questions throughout, please ask. Whether it's in chat or on voice, it doesn't bother me either way. If I didn't answer your questions throughout, at the end I'll make sure that we answer any and all questions that people have. Okay? Any comments, concerns, gripes, or issues about how tonight's going to work?
Sounds perfect.
Will
Awesome.
you be going over every class or just the ones that people have?
Yes, I'm recording. I plan to go over all of the ones that we would like to use as our meta builds. If we've got some like off meta things that people have questions on, I may touch on those. Like I know we've got a couple that only have thieves at 80, so I might touch on what a thief might do or things like that to kind of build that in. But my main goal is our meta stuff to start.
Cool. As long as you're going over Firebrand, because I know you said we need more of them. So I'm
Yep, I will. I will touch on Firebrand. I may let our resident Firebrand Eeyore go over some of that stuff because he's got a lot more practice than I do. But I will try to touch on it. Okay. So.
Actually, since we're talking about Firebrand, I would like to learn it, but minstrel gear is not the easiest to get a hold of. So is there something I could use as a stopgap? Something I could use?
I know we like minstrels because A, it's got a lot of defensive, and B, it's got the concentration for the boon uptime. If you get the Warlord armor boxes from doing the world versus world, which ones are they?
I have the armor. It's the weapons that's hard to get.
Okay. I know they're more expensive, right? Obviously, we can help. We can help with that. I know I can make some minstrel stuff. I'd have to see exactly what I can make, but we will try to help out with that. And if
I think
honestly,
I can make some as well.
Perfect. And honestly, if you're missing a weapon or two, is it a huge deal? Probably not. So, if you've got the armor, that's going to be our biggest thing.
The biggest two stats you're going to want are vitality and concentration. So, if you can just piece together different stats that give you a little bit of that, they'd be fine for the time being.
I'll try to get it done for next time.
Yeah, no worries. As long as you got all the armor.
Yep, armor's kind of the big thing.
Yeah, I mean, bladed armor's easy to get.
Yeah.
All right, do you have a specific order for your agenda, or are we just going to jump in with random questions, or how do you want to do that?
Well, I kind of went through our agenda a little bit, so I wanted to touch on the graphics and stuff here next. But since questions came out, I kind of fielded those. Like I said, if there are questions, please ask. Otherwise, I'm going to try to go through a little bit, following my little template I've got over here. So, graphics and interface. Some of this, like I was saying before, is a little personal preference. But if you go open up your options and go to the second tab, that's your graphics options. For world versus world, unless you've got a really high-end computer, you probably want to drop everything to basically non-existent. So I pretty much use the best performance presetting, just because. So with the amount of stuff that's going on, right, sometimes it can be really hard to see the circles. By dropping everything down, it takes out a lot of the extra particle effects. You'll still see the red and the white circles and all that kind of stuff to help judge where things are. With your model, your character limit down at the bottom, you'll see a lot of red names floating around. It takes a little bit of getting used to. You won't see the actual character themselves, but you'll see where the names are, so you can still kind of keep track of where things are. It may help those that are struggling graphically to keep track of things, or if their computer just can't handle it. Okay, so I suggest pretty much dropping all of that stuff down to the bottom.
How do you do that?
So you go into the graphics options.
Yeah, I'm there.
Okay, and then you can do, you got resolution stuff, and where it says advanced settings, there's the setting preset. If you click on that, I just hit best performance, and I go mostly with that. It should drop pretty much everything out. Or you can go through each one of those things and just drop everything down to the minimum or somewhere in the middle.
Okay,
Biggest-
it totally changed everything on there. So I
Yep.
have a question then. If I'm on world versus world, this is better. But what about out like doing the End of Dragons? How will it change that?
So it will not look as pretty. You can always go in. So you can always go in and change that. So that's not something that has to be this way all the time. But when we're doing world versus world, it may help people keep track of things. So if you wanted a higher graphics and your computer can handle it, by all means do it. I know maybe not most, a lot of content creators will say that we should drop it down so that we can, it's just easier to see that way.
Well, in world I have difficulty, so I want to see there. But it's different when you're in the open world.
Absolutely.
But
So
I see
just-
that it's got different things here: best, auto, and appearance. Best performance and best appearance. So I can switch back and forth pretty easy.
You can switch back, yep, anytime. You can technically even do it in combat. It might be a little weird, especially bringing up the thing, but you can literally switch any of those at any time. So feel free to, feel free to switch those around kind of as needed. So I'm going to go up to the general options tab here and just kind of go over some things from the combat. So down, it's like the 4th or 5th set of things, the combat and movement. A couple of things that I like, again, these are, you may like it, you may not. It does take some getting used to some of these. For ground targeting, there's a couple different things. So the top one is normal. Basically, you select, if you have a ground targeting skill, you would select the skill, and then you have to push the button a second time to use the skill. The way I do it is fast with range indicator. Okay, it'll keep your little circle AoE thing up, and you can drop it whenever. But the way that works is, instead of needing to push the button a second time, it casts as soon as you let go. So it's a little bit faster. There's less button pushes. It's less difficult to mess things up once you get used to it. And then the instant one is as soon as you push the button, it just casts wherever your mouse is. That one's a little, if you're trying to move things around or lead somebody, sometimes that can be difficult. So range or fast with range indicator is what I like. If that's not your thing, that's not your thing. I would make sure that you disable double tap to evade. If you are just trying to move left and right, strafing, and you happen to double tap, and you're going to use your evades, so you're going to lose out on your evade. And I've seen plenty of people jump themselves off a cliff just because they accidentally double tapped. So I would strongly suggest that you take that off and that you make sure you have a good keybind for your evade specifically. I personally use Shift. I know some people use V. Just kind of whatever you get used to. Let's see. Promote skill target. So this one is a little more kind of niche. This one takes a little bit to get used to, but if you have promote skill target selected, anytime you use an ability, it will try to give you a target, which is great when you're running around doing open world. But if you are, say, doing PvP or world versus world, a lot of abilities have a lunge mechanic to it. So by having that selected, it's going to try to give you a target, and then you're going to lunge at that target. So if you're trying to use it to run away, it's going to probably shoot you back right into the enemy mob. So that one takes a little bit of getting used to, of making sure that you have a target when you want it, and when you don't want it, hitting the escape button to get rid of your target. But if you can get used to that one, sometimes that can help you either get away from a fight or into a fight more efficiently. Lock ground target at maximum skill range. The way that one works is when you bring up your little AoE markers, your little circles, it will lock at its maximum range. So even if you move your mouse out further, you cannot place it anywhere beyond that. So it just helps make sure that you don't fail to place down your AoE because you moved it too far. So that's a good one to have locked. Snap ground target at current target. And I've seen some people use it. I've heard some people like it. If you are, say, a power Herald and you have your target selected, and then you hit hammer 3, which is phase smash, it will use it on that target. You won't be able to place it, so if they're moving around and they're running, you may miss the target because you can't lead the target. Things like that. So it can be really useful if you're attacking things that are a little bit more stationary, but I suggest to keep that one off so that you can kind of lead targets or place things in better positions.
Okay, I thought that one made it hit moving targets better. It doesn't?
It all depends. If that's the way you are comfortable doing it, then by all means use it. But if you're using your phase smash at the full 1200 range, and they're running and they get super speed, it's still going to attack that location when you target it. It's not going to target where they are moving to. So just keep that in mind.
Oh, okay.
As far as the competitive section, if you want team colors, it can help identify who's good and who's bad, and you can set that to either be everybody, so everybody on your side and all the enemies, or you can set it to just enemies, or you can set it to just allies, that kind of thing. Standard enemy models just makes, again, that's a little bit helps with the graphical side of things. You won't see all the fun, fancy, legendary trinkets and all that kind of crap spout off. You'll just see basically all of the elementalists will look the same, and all of the heralds will look the same, and that kind of thing. So it can help identify what kind of class is what, and again, it kind of helps your computer not be overwhelmed with a lot of the extra stuff. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to hit on the options. Does anybody else have any questions or have any other suggestions that they like to see? No? Okay, cool. So let's do a little bit of movement stuff, and then we'll move on from there to kind of squad formations and callouts and such. So. Sounds good, Rankin.
Oh, I have a question.
Yep.
These markers that you put up, the square and the circle and all that, when we're in Zerg and somebody says, oh, I'm moving to the circle, I can't see the circle. Will what we just did fix that so that I can see the circle? Steady.
It very well may help you see the circle, Gil. Basically, what we did was drop, so like, if you were using an elementalist and then dropped a fire field, and somebody else dropped a light field, and like all of these things that appear on the ground have all these really cool, graphical, awesome things, right? What we did was tone all of that back, so it's giving you really basic information without all the fancy frills. So it may make some of this other stuff a little easier. Also, by dropping the amount of characters that can be seen at once, it should help alleviate that a little bit as well. Now, I can't guarantee that. We'll have to do a little bit of experimenting with you, but I'm guessing that they'll be a little easier for you to see.
That'll make it easier to keep on tag if I know where we're going, because you say we're going to, or whoever says we're going to the heart or going to whatever, I just have no idea where we're going until you start moving.
Yep, so I'm hoping that helps you out. It may not, but I really think it might. That is also a good point Bob just pointed out. So if you look at your mini-map, the markers also show up there. So depending on how far out you've zoomed or how far in you've zoomed, you may be able to see them on the mini-map a little easier.
I don't look at the mini-map during the Zerg because I have difficulty keeping tag.
Absolutely. It was just another option, like say I've got them all set down ahead of time.
Yeah, I tried it, and it's a good idea if you can do that. I just haven't been able to yet. I haven't been able to do that. Hopefully I will at some point.
Practice. Okay, so let's do a little bit of movement and stuff. So basically we kind of always want to stay on tag, right? This symbol is about 180 units.
Wow.
Oh shit.
Woof.
Chem's dogs are losing it.
So basically a lot of the abilities that we have from our scrappers and other supports have a really small range, unfortunately. So the closer you can stay to tag, the better. You know, try to use this as an example. I was watching a video about positioning earlier, and they were also saying, you know, for a lot of, especially the heralds and the ranged DPS, maybe stay just behind the tag rather than in front of or directly on top of. Gives you a little bit of a barrier in case they're charging at us and other such things. So if you do get off tag, like Bob was saying, try to avoid the large red circles if you're trying to get back to tag. So say
switch teams and I'll put something down.
Perfect. So if I'm way up here and you got separated because you got CC'd or something, you know, if I'm up over here and you guys are trying to get to me, just don't necessarily run through. You can run around the outside of a lot of this stuff. Always, we should also be trying not to run straight. If you can run in a more arc or at an angle and kind of switch back a little bit, it makes you harder to kill. So try to stay on tag and always be casting. Okay, so we should be, yeah, so so casting means just using your skills. Eeyore, can you use the invulnerability coordinator and drop in?
Yeah, give me a second.
Like spamming.
Yep, spamming all of your buttons. So, like, we should be able to, let me just check. Okay, cool. So we can attack Eeyore and he won't take any damage. So that'll kind of help with this portion. So if we're running around, you're on tag, get on tag, get on tag. Woohoo! So everybody get on tag, and then we're kind of using our abilities from our range. You know, you can always be casting something. Some abilities will lock you in position, so you got to figure out which ones those are and make sure to not use them when we're about to be bombed or something. But you can be moving and attacking at the same time. So Heralds, your hammer auto attack is 1200 range. You just keep auto attacking and auto attacking some more, and just it will keep going. Then you can drop your other skills in the areas of the enemies.
Any of our big damage dealers also, their auto attacks can't really be ignored because of their stats.
Exactly. So always be casting, even when we're moving about. You can, so while you're casting, guys, just keep moving and just keep practicing. Okay, you can go back and forth, and just keep casting. You can drop AoEs while you go. You can move about as we go. So that's kind of our base. One of our biggest things, I think, is we keep stopping to cast and to attack, and we don't really need to. So that's something to keep in mind. We can always be casting and doing some sort of damage. So let's all gather up over here. Okay, I want to work on a cross. So any of you that have done training with Raikou, or the last couple of times I've run Reset, we've met early to kind of practice a little bit of movement stuff. I want to work on a cross here. So basically I want to, if you can try to keep CCs or just kind of AoEs down on top of you, I would appreciate that as we work on this. But on this, basically what we're going to do is we're going to keep attacking. We're going to keep moving over here, and then just kind of back and forth until I call for a cross. Okay, so if I call for a cross, it'll look something like this. So you guys just stay here for a second. It'll look something like this. If you're a melee like myself or some others, you may go kind of through the middle or just off to the side. You can roll through any damage here in the middle, preferably forward. if you need to, and then you just get to the other side and we keep moving left and right here. Okay. If you are range and you have the ability to do so, you should be taking more of a kind of circular route. Takes a little bit longer, right? But again, you've got those dodges, and if we can get super speed or swiftness going while we're doing it, that'll help. But that way you're avoiding the large damage sections. Okay, so what was that?
I've got a Herald, so I'm not. I do the circular one.
Yep,
This is a long range weapon.
absolutely right. Go ahead.
So you're going to go straight through, and I'll go around.
So I'll do more of a straight path. There'd probably be a small arc kind of here, you know, closer to this middle circle. As a Herald, you can go more towards this kind of larger circle, or even further out as you go.
That's going to take me away from the support, right?
A lot of our support will probably also, I mean, not all of our support's ranged, but so if I'm here and you're here, that's still pretty close. Okay. And like Raikou was saying, don't just walk through. Don't go la 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 la. You know, you can use your defensive here, your blocks, your dodges, your speeds, all that kind of stuff, and you should be attacking the whole time. Okay. So I wanna practice that here. So we'll start back over here by arrow, like we're coming out of from a wall by a keep or something. Okay, and we're just gonna keep going back and forth until I call for a cross. And again, let's try to always be attacking and do your best to stay here on tag. Okay, so ready, go. So attack, 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 attack. Keep going. Okay, get on tag, stay close to tag, stay close to tag. Okay, we're gonna cross. Good work. All the way here to star, all the way to star. Okay, and then we can go back and forth over here, and we can use cover as we need, all that kind of stuff. Okay, so does that maneuver make sense to everyone?
Yes. Come on, y'all, speak up. I feel like I'm taking a whole thing.
If we have the ability to switch to melee, should we do that and go right in, or just stick with ranged?
So, for us at the moment, I'm trying to keep us staying at ranged, mostly because we're relatively inexperienced as a Zerg. But if we, you know, say they're just pressing W and coming right at us and there's not a lot else we can do, then yes, absolutely we can switch to range. Switch to melee and try to drop what we've got. Like I said, I try, at the very least, I know when I'm commanding, I do my best to try to stay at a range, which is part of the reason I like to use my Renegade for commanding, as opposed to something else so that I can kind of see where we're at as far as range. But there are certain situations where if we call for a clash, is the call out generally speaking to get in melee, and we're just going to go in here and press W and just beat the crap out of them, you know, by all means at that point switch to melee weapons.
Worked for me.
And then but if we're calling for a cross, we're trying not to take damage, and we're trying not to just deal a bunch of damage. We're just trying to survive and get to the other side. So especially like a stealth bomb comes in and either we don't catch it in time or something like that, I may try for a cross, in which case we're just trying to get to the other side of them so we can turn around and kind of reset the battlefield, as opposed to now they're on us, and they've got the initiative that is going to give them the advantage. Okay, so we've gone over casting while moving, a cross maneuver. We don't have. Oh, Raikou, you're on your scrapper. Do you have sneak gyro up? Perfect. Okay, so I want to go over.
You need me to switch as well?
I'll leave that up to you. We can probably make this work with just Raikou for the time being, at least for purposes of showing this.
Okay.
But thank you. So let's all meet up here on triangle. Okay, so if I call for a stealth, I do my best to give us at least a small countdown. So I'll go something like we're gonna stealth in 3, 2, 1. That's a call out for scrappers specifically to use their sneak gyro, which should be the ultimate or the elite skill that they're using. Thank you. And basically after that, we're going to call for a blast finisher. So if you have a blast finisher, like Infusion Bomb from Scrappers or Heralds, you could use your Drop the Hammer as a blast finisher, Holy Strike, or Feel My Wrath from some of these other classes. Okay, that's going to help spread the stealth out and make it essentially last a little bit longer. It reapplies the buff to people. So,
And then I drop it right on top of us.
So on your Herald, yes, you would use Drop the Hammer right inside of the smoke field. So let's give that a try. Basically, if we're going to do that, we're gonna call for it, and then we're gonna move to somewhere else to see if we can get a better engagement spot or surprise the enemy. So let's go for a stealth in 3, 2, 1, stealth. Blast, blast, blast. Okay, and then we're gonna move over here towards Star. Perfect, and then we can engage again if we need to. Now you'll notice that this one, that not everybody got stealth. It does have a target count. We have more scrappers, generally speaking, so that's why we keep a scrapper in each party, is partially for the stealth, partially for their cleanses, and their heals are generally all 5 target. Don't glide, don't get on your mount, don't use light fields, and when we're in world versus world, please keep your mini away so that we can use stealth and they won't give our position away. Correct. Rhodes is a light field.
Road is just funny looking because it's actually a road.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the only light field the Herald has?
That should be the only one that you have, yes. Okay, so that's kind of...
If I use the hammer while we're stealthing, will that give us away?
So if you are attacking with it, yes.
Okay, I won't attack with anything yet.
Yeah, so if we're doing a stealth, basically we're not attacking until we're told, because we're trying to reposition or get a really good surprise on an enemy. So if we're stealth, don't do anything until told otherwise.
Got it.
So I think that's most of what I wanted to go over with movement stuff. We should always be doing our best to stay on tag. Like I said, if you're ranged, especially if you've got a 1200 range, feel free to stand just behind me as the commander. Again, it gives you a little bit of a barrier to kind of see where I'm going. They'll punch me first. I'm generally pretty... Commander should be in a really tanky set, so they'll take the brunt of the damage, that kind of thing.
When it doesn't take up everyone else's time, I'd like for someone to help me make sure my Herald is equipped right.
We will go over that in just a little bit here, and I will help make sure that you've got all the right stuff. Okay, go.
Okay.
Perfect. Formations and roles overview, and a little bit of call-outs, kind of all at once. So, So when we set up the squads, what we're aiming for in general is to have, if you want to, Bob, sure.
I need healing.
Basically what we're trying to get is one Firebrand, one Scrapper, and one Herald in every group. Couple of reasons for this. First, skills generally have a 5-player cap that will affect your party before the rest of the squad, and then your squad before any random person just running by. Okay, so Firebrands have a lot of their one of their big things is stability. Stability has a 5-person cap. The Scrappers have a 5-person cap for a lot of their cleanses and that kind of thing. So by having one in each party, it prioritizes that party. So that's why we try to do that. The reason the Heralds are set one to a party is one of their traits is called Assassin's Presence. And Assassin's Presence gives a ferocity boost to everyone in their party. Thank you. So that gives it to everybody in your party. It does not stack. So if, for example, I put both of you in the same party, one of you could switch as long as you remember to switch back. But that's the reason that they are one in each party there. And then from there, we generally have, on run nights, we do a fairly good job of having a bunch of Scourges. Scourges primarily are going to be stripping and corrupting boons. So that we can help remove stability to get some more CC and remove protection so that we can do some more damage, that kind of thing. So while there won't probably be one in every party, we will have probably several throughout the squad. Mesmer's running Chronomancer like I am currently. I can give Alacrity to up to 10 players. So we generally do 1 per 10. The same with the Alacrigades, or our Diviners Renegades. They can also give Alacrity on up to 10. Which is obviously useful for making sure that we could... Sure, we can move to a different part. I was just trying to show how it might look on the squad screens. So that's kind of why we set a lot of these up the way we do. Any questions on squad setup? No? Okay. So I kind of want to go through our meta builds-ish a little bit. I'm going to quickly go through the ones that nobody really wanted training on. Just touch on what they kind of do for us and why we like them. So scrappers, we kind of touched on a little bit. Scrappers, we need one per party, or would prefer one per party. They are going to do a lot of cleansing, taking off conditions and things. They have the sneak gyro, which we went over. They also, a lot of their stuff is based around when they cleanse a condition, it also causes healing. Or they have general healing as it is. They will use a med kit and a elixir gun for some of the healing and cleanse conditions. If they're running around using a hammer, we were at a 1200 range and I called for a spike, they could use hammer 5. Makes this thing right here, which I believe stuns people, correct? Yep, causes stun and vulnerability, which is all good stuff. Okay, so that's why we like scrappers. They're going to change a lot of our conditions into boons and heal us. Spellbreakers are all about just removing boons from other people. Their big thing is domes, is what we call them. The skill is actually called Winds of Enchantment. Basically, for every second that an enemy is in it, they lose a boon and they cannot get boons back. So it looks like a giant orange or yellow dome. If it's a nice bright orange, it's friendly. If it's kind of a darker brown, it's not so friendly. Get the hell out of it. Another thing, they bring along some other stuff to help get rid of boons and are just really disruptive. They often will jump into the enemy Zerg and just wreak havoc from within as best they can. So they have a very tanky, again, kind of low damage set of gear, but they're primarily there to make things easier for the rest of us. Scrapper Dome, I missed, is one of your tool belt abilities. That one, thank you. That one will grant stability, and it blocks incoming projectiles. So if we're expecting a big spike from a bunch of ranged enemies, that is really good to have thrown up. Now, that said, it does not block the Herald stuff because they're not really projectiles. So we do have to be careful with that. Eeyore, are you going to show Dome?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Alright, ready? Dome,
Yep.
3, 2, 1.
Okay, so that's a bad dome. It deals a small amount of damage, but like I said, the big thing is that it will get rid of all of your boons, and it will stop you from adding more. So if we see those, we got a GTFO. Renegade, I briefly touched on. Renegades will be running Diviner's gear, which will give them a higher concentration, which then they would use their F4 ability to grant alacrity on up to 10 players, and it's a lot of alacrity. Oh yes, meditation is another one that will make boons go bye-bye. So they'll get in, they'll use break enchantments to drop a bunch of boons. They'll use winds of enchantment. If we had several of them, the commander will generally number them. So, and then call out for specific domes so that they don't all overlap, and then we have no dome for a while. Back to Renegade, they're a 900 range, a lot of condition damage. When running Kala, they have an AoE pulsing stun that grants stability to allies, a lot of vulnerability, and other things. So their big thing again is the alacrity, but they can also use their F2 to grant quite a bit of might. So that's what the Renegades are all about. Renegades we will put in the same party as a Berserker, if we have any. The Berserkers are rather squishy for a warrior, but they can deal an incredible amount of AoE damage. Generally speaking, they're going to be using a greatsword. They'll get in, they'll get a bunch of adrenaline, and then they'll use their F1 is Arc Splitter, I believe is what it's called. It does a lot of AoE damage. Arc Diviner, thank you. It deals an incredible amount of AoE damage, and then they should have another skill that allows them to essentially get right back into using that. Having the alacrity with the Renegade and some of the other things that the Renegade brings, they can just absolutely demolish groups in melee combat. So we haven't brought any Berserkers yet, but if we did, that would be basically why we bring them. Scourges we again briefly touched on. Their main thing is using wells, so they'll take traits and things that will make their wells remove and corrupt boons. So it'll turn their boons into conditions and just remove them. They're mostly at a 900 range. If we get to the point where we're coordinated enough, we can call specifically for well spikes. When you place them, you kind of want to place them a little offset so that we're increasing the AoE of them. Also, with their shades, they can corrupt and remove a lot of boons there as well, and deal a lot of damage in their concentrated areas. So that's why we bring Scourges. Try to get at least a couple in the squad when we can. Alright, so then we're on to stuff that people have signed up for. Does anybody have any questions on what we've gone over so far?
Nope.
Any veterans want to add anything else to what I've already said?
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. So let's kind of go from what the most people wanted to see to what the least people wanted to see. We'll work on the Dragonhunters first. So, Dragonhunters, you guys have your traps, right? It's kind of one of your big things. And by one of, I mean it's like most of your big thing. For weapons, one set of weapons will be Scepter Torch, and the other one is generally Staff. The Staff can be switched out for a longbow. Longbow will offer more CC, but there's the Dragonhunter build. Will offer more CC at the same kind of range, but doesn't have a blast finisher and some of the other utility that the staff has. Baby Gates is longbow 5. So if people call it Baby Gates, when it goes down, so does one of you have the longbow? That one, perfect. See that last blast here at the end? Drops these gates around people. They cannot get out of that without like teleporting things. So it's called Baby Gates. It will lock you in position, so be very careful when you're using it. And obviously if they've got stability, it's less safe, so. Okay, yep, and it will remove stacks of stab. Thank you. So you're going to use your Procession of Blades and your Test of Faith kind of right on top of each other. This can be done in a couple of different ways. If we are controlling a choke point, such as the end of a bridge, and we know that they're going to come to us, we can lay them down on our end of the bridge and either back up a little bit or just kind of let them come, and they'll trigger them. Crap, I can't use them from here. The Procession of Blades will deal a good amount of damage and slow. It also grants Fury. And the Test of Faith... The Test of Faith makes it so that they can't really get out of the area. Keeps them in the one spot. They will use Sword of Justice as another ranged AoE damage that also causes vulnerability and cripple. So we can use that for a little bit of kind of slowing power. That's what that looks like. And some vulnerability to help us deal some extra damage. Your heal will... Your heal will also block attacks for 2 seconds while you're using it. It's a decent sized heal as well. And then the ultimate is Renewed Focus, which grants you invulnerability while you channel it. It does channel for 3 seconds. You cannot do anything else while channeling that ability, but it does also recharge your virtues. So your virtues are your F1, 2, and 3. F1 will throw out a spear. That's what that looks like, and it will chain to somebody. You can use it again to pull them if they don't have stability on. F2 is a leap that will grant regen, I believe. Yep. And F3, I don't recall.
That's the shield. Verb shield.
Shield of Courage.
Yes. So that grants Aegis periodically, and then you can grant it to everybody and put the shield that will block attacks from the front. So as long as they are moving effectively and keeping that towards the enemy, that will definitely help out there. For equipment, it's mostly Marauder's gear. I would say go 100% Marauder's gear. You want the stake for the food, and then it's Rune of the Scholar for the extra power and ferocity, and increased critical strike damage while your health is above 90%. And then you're using energy and force sigils on your weapons to help increase that damage. So Test of Faith, little extra note on that. It doesn't stop that well, but it will cause damage if they cross through the AoE of it. Questions on that? So if you've got the staff equipped, it should be staff 2 is your blast miniature. If a commander calls for lines, that is staff 5, I believe. Causes it looks like this, and enemies cannot cross it. I believe if they have stability, they will cross through it, but it takes their stack of stability. So we can use that to help keep them where we want them. In the focus and torch side of things, the symbol of punishment is focus 2, or sorry, scepter 2. Causes some damage, but one of the big things, it gives might. So we can use that to help buff before a fight. And chain of light, which is scepter 3, can be used to help lock down and give vulnerability to the enemy. Okay, so questions on Dragonhunter.
Would you prefer longbow or staff for us to use?
Yes.
Okay.
It kind of depends. I mean, if we get a couple, it wouldn't hurt to have, kind of alternating. Some have the longbow for the extra CC, and some have the staff for the blast and lines. Both weapons do have the 1200 range, so I'm not terribly concerned about that. I do believe that the longbow will be a higher DPS, so we can keep that in mind as well. But it's kind of situational. I know I have more fun using the longbow, and yeah, exactly. So the longbow, DPS, staff for utility. We could, I guess, if we wanted, run staff and longbow, but then we're losing, like I said, some might gen and some extra lockdowns. The torch deals quite a bit of burning damage and cures conditions on allies. So we like to have that available.
Same stats on that, Marauders.
Yep. So like I said, we can use traps in a couple different ways. We can either use them at choke points, or if we are going to go into melee, we can have the Dragonhunters use their F2 into the middle and drop traps, assuming they can keep their stability up and going. Yep, like that. So, questions on how the Dragonhunter works or why we like them? Okay. I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking and there aren't a lot of questions.
What, is there any tips or tricks or anything that you, like, anything, I guess, that you haven't said that you need? It would I've only played it a little bit, so
I can't really think of much. While we're using this, while we're trying to keep ourselves at more of a range, I think we're going to end up using the traps more defensively in choke points, as opposed to jumping in and dropping them on their feet. But we can save that as a surprise. That is also true. Yeah, we're gonna go through because some of our documents need to be fixed yet. So thank you for bringing that up. Eeyore and I will be working on getting those updated more appropriately here soonish. I can't think of anything else specific. Did you guys want to try that as an example, or I saw a couple of you give that jump and traps a try. Did we want to have just you guys go over to the other color and we can just see how quickly some of this can work? We can all beat up on each other when it's our turn.
You.
Okay.
it's just practice and remember, like knowing how far you're gonna jump, and so
That's for the Dragon Hunters, right?
Yep. The sub-team push. Oh, you mean like when we're actually running, right?
Do it now. Just have the 3 Dragon Hunters go on a different team and
Yep.
jump you and drop traps to see how it works.
So why don't you Dragon Hunters go red, team for now, and then we can have you guys kind of jump in or lay traps, and we'll see how long we can survive.
Do we fight back?
nope, you just stand there and take
Oh no.
You'll get your chance to do it back to them, so don't worry.
Okay. Yay for scrappers.
Swift and steady.
Alright.
Oh, that had to hurt.
So yeah, why don't you guys this tickles do something. Ooh, you got one. Alright, so here, why don't you guys start up here? We'll all revive, and then I'll do a call out for Dragon Hunter traps. And you guys can all go in and burst us all to hell, okay? Yeah. Let me know when you guys are your cooldowns are up.
I'm good.
Yep.
Okay, we'll do Raccoon. We'll do traps in 3, 2, 1, go ahead. Traps!
My pain is easy. Thank you.
So Bob's cheating, but
Basically, the first people to go down are going to be the people on the DPS builds.
yep.
They're squishier.
So yeah, I don't know if you guys are running Marauders currently or what kind of gear you're running, but
Take that.
Hear me? Raikou?
I'm doing soldiers and a mix of soldier, berserker, and a little bit of Valkyrie with the trinkets. Seems to work okay.
I was thinking maybe you should command the Dragon Hunters and pretend like we're the enemy team and we're gonna push it, so you can probably use the drops defensively, which is gonna be
Glory.
more like the real
More like what
situation
we're
in
gonna-
world.
It's a good idea. I like it.
Also, you can use the F3 skills, the shields, to kind of practice what the Dragon Hunters should do if they get engaged in melee range.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so Demon Hunter's on me.
Demon Hunter, that's way cooler than Dragonhunter.
It is way cooler. DH is on me. I'll just stick with. Okay, so you guys are gonna work on staying on tank, and we are going to essentially do what Raikou said. They will come and attack us, and we're gonna do our best to not die and do a shitload of damage. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
Bring that one down.
go in 3, 2, 1. Let's do this. That's not that.
Take that.
Great baby gate.
Okay. Keep moving right. Keep moving right. Good shield. Good shield. See if you can get in and drop traps on arrow. Good gates. Alright, we'll call it there. Good.
Fully functional again.
Okay, we're calling it. Done. No more.
Stop!
There's one to remember me by.
Ooh, that hurts a lot. Okay, so what did you guys think? How'd that go for everybody?
I think the traps were a bit too spread out.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
And that'll
work
kind of
on
take
it.
practice.
Yeah, timing and
Also, they didn't
Making
have any
sure.
supports or very much
True.
stability outside of their shield.
No extra buffs, no extra. I mean, I thought it went actually pretty well as far as, you know, we got them down. I called for them to jump in, and they got that down pretty well. So I think overall it went pretty well. Obviously, it'll be better when we can get the supports and some of the extra buffs and stuff in there. But if you guys were comfortable with that, I thought it was a pretty good first shot.
If I feel like people are low on health, should I use that Wings of Resolve, the F2, on the group? Because I think it, like, instead of jumping into them, into theirs, should I use it to help, like, our squad?
Ooh, I would say no, but
Okay.
I would tend to agree, depending. Yeah, because you can use it for a disengage or a re-engage, and especially if our scrappers keep up, or some other classes can bring in their healing. The other problem is giving regeneration. If that gets corrupted, becomes poison, which A is a dot and B reduces incoming healing. So we have to be careful for that as well.
Is that regeneration or just healing, or is it the same thing?
So I believe it has a small heal on it, right? And then it gives regen.
Here.
I think it depends on how it's traded. I'm
Yeah.
not sure.
So
That's
so there is a heal on it, but it does also cause the regen, which can again be corrupted. So
right. much better as a offensive. I tend to use it as a defensive more often than not.
Yeah, we're talking like perfect world, like your supports are going to be right there doing what they should do. So you shouldn't need it to use it defensively.
Gotcha.
And are all three of you running longbow currently?
I have staff.
You have staff? So one of you is longbow and two of you are staff. So do we want to just have them try to engage and see if we can call out lines and
Guys got
and a baby
good
gate?
baby gates off.
Yeah, there were a couple of good baby gates in there. I liked it.
Thank you.
Okay, so I'll try to lay down a location for lines, and I'll call it out. Okay. Okay. So 3, 2, 1. Yep. Just come on in and charge. Okay. Lines on arrow. Lines on arrow.
Good CCs.
That was. Okay, just keep moving. Stay on me, stay on me, stay on me. Let me know when lines is back off of cooldown.
Seconds.
Okay, I want lines on circle. 3, 2, 1, go. Go, go, go.
Ah.
Get that. Good work.
The push with the longbow was good on that one too.
Alright, so we'll call that there.
So when they do the lines, is it overkill for me to put the gates up?
I would say in actual world versus world, no, because all of that's going to take out stability. In this, maybe a little bit, but again, practice is good.
Because in real world, this will be multiplied by like 5 each.
Correct.
Okay.
In addition, there was some really good pushes in just general CC. So, happy to see all that. So, any other questions, comments, concerns, gripes, or issues with Dragonhunters?
I'm satisfied with my care.
Best class?
Alright. If that's the case, then we will do Firebrand next. So we don't have any currently. If you Dragon Hunters wanted to switch over, that's cool. If not, that's cool too. Just Eeyore, our resident Firebrand guru, is here. So
should we stay as red or?
let's go back to green. Or if you want to join us on green, that's fine too.
Yeah, I'm in combat. Let me get out of combat and switch.
What's the weapons on Firebrand?
So if you're going full, like boon support, it should be staff, mace, shield.
Okay, no, I don't have it.
No, you don't have any of them?
Nope. Well, I have my staff from Dragonhunter, but it's Berserker, so.
What other weapons do you have?
I have axe, scepter, and torch.
Go ahead and throw axe, torch, and then just work on getting a shield. You can keep the axe if you want.
Oh wait, I think I have. Yeah, I have a shield.
Yeah, go ahead and throw that on. So weapons should be staff for the support build, staff, mace, shield. but you can switch to Axe if you want the extra CC from Axe 3. And the Axe auto attack chain is probably one of the best in the game.
Alright, well, just for tonight, I'll have an axe, shield, and staff.
Okay, that's fine.
Perfect.
And then, let me see if I can link my build.
I don't even have specializations put up for Firebrand yet.
That's okay. Here's the build.
Oh,
if
perfect.
you want to glide over that for a sec. You can drop Mantra of Lore for Signet of Mercy for the extra res if you want to. I personally think it's kind of slow, but I mean,
Which tree is that?
It's a utility.
Oh, my bad.
You can drop Mantra of Lore for Signet of Mercy if you want. Basically, Guardian's job is to just be a booner, throwing nothing but boons out, being frontline tank, basically, because Guardians have one of the lowest health pools in the game, but they also have one of the highest boon applications in the game. So you're constantly going to be buffing allies and yourself. Big Stab is going to be Stand Your Ground. That is one of your shouts, so it's an insta-cast. Applies 5 stacks of stability. If anybody ever calls Small Stab, that's going to be Mantra of Liberation. Gives like 1 stack of stab, it breaks stun for allies. And the thing with your mantras they're all cones. So if you're not facing your allies, you're not going to be giving it to your allies. So if Kirik is up front here and you're right behind him, sometimes you'll have to do a quick 180 and spam it at your party. Or make sure you're kind of in the middle of the group in order to make sure that people are getting the boons that you're applying.
Okay.
Hallowed Ground is it's a pretty big radius, 360-degree radius, and it applies stab for 10 pulses. This is good to use, especially if you're standing in a lot of damage, a lot of like Scourge wells that rip boons, because even if you rip if one stack of stab gets ripped, it's going to apply another one immediately. It's a combo field fire, so if allies blast in it, they're blasting fire on enemies, which is also good. Let's see. Obviously, staff is your ranged option. We just kind of went over that with Dragonhunter, so I'm not really going to waste much time with it.
If we don't have staff, what would we run? Actually, I think I get staff from the guild weapons. That would work. I think. What was the stats we were running on that one?
Should be Minstrel.
Minstrel, no.
Full Minstrel. If not, let me know and I can help you out. But Minstrel is the ideal one because it gives you the two main stats are, gosh, let me remember.
Concentration.
Vitality and concentration, yeah. Those are like the 2 main ones to try and make you as tanky as possible and make your boons last as long as possible.
Okay.
Mace Shield are great support weapons, probably some of the best. So your Mace 3 is going to be a 240 radius block for you and allies. This is what it looks like. And if somebody were to hit me, it blasts damage in an area and grants protection and Aegis to 5 allies. The 2 is a combo field light, and it does some healing and regen on allies. so it's good to throw down, especially if we're running through somebody, to give your allies a little bit of extra health. Shield 4 is a cone in front of you, 600 range, protection, and Aegis. And then Shield of Absorption obviously blocks. It blocks. It doesn't.
Blocks
It doesn't
projectiles, right?
reflect. Yeah, it doesn't reflect. It absorbs them. But if you hit the ability again immediately, it does a burst heal, small burst heal for all the allies inside of it.
And I don't know if you saw when he first activated it. It also was a pushback on me.
Yep, it's a knockback. Yep, good CC.
Did you want to show the what was it, Mace 2?
Yeah, here, hit me. Yeah, so it blasts out in a 360-degree radius around you. And then I guess let's get into the books. Oh, Mercy Signet is a ranged revive for one target. The only bad thing about it is it's a 2-second cast time. So if you get interrupted or anything like that, then it kind of blows the skill.
Good hunting.
And it also gives you passive concentration. And then let's get into the books. Does anybody have any questions about like utilities and weapon skills? Right. So book 1, as a support Firebrand, you're not going to spend very much time in here. The main skill that you would be using in here is 3, like on walls for the ranged pull. So you can rip people off of walls and hopefully drop them on your allies so they can kill them. The 5 is okay. I usually use that if we're like in a keep or something. It just buffs up your allies, gives them burning on their next hit. That's pretty much it for book 1. Don't be afraid if we've won the fight and there's a lot of downs to drop like a page 4 on the downs to get the ticking burning so they can't get back up. It's a very big area and it's a combo field fire. So if your allies are blasting in it, they're gonna produce burning on downs and stuff like that. Book 2, again, you aren't gonna spend like a super long amount of time in here. Main ability is yeah, that's true. It blasts might if people use world finishers in it, the fire field. So book 2, skill 5, I always prioritize using that first because it's going to boost your healing effectiveness and it clears condies for 5 allies. So, well, it converts them into boons. So 5 boon conversions on 5 allies, which is pretty big numbers. So I typically use that first and then I'll drop like a skill 4 because again, that's a big AoE that ticks heals on allies. And it's going to have increased effectiveness after you use the skill 5. And then the other skill you're going to want to worry about is skill 2. That's another AoE 240 radius Condi clear. So that clears 3 conditions for 5 targets. So if you notice like your scrapper's having trouble or they go down and you have to worry about clearing Condis a little more, those are the skills to prioritize. And then book 3, this is the big bread and butter for Firebrand pretty much. Again, skill 5 is going to be your best skill in the book. Does stability, Aegis, increases your allies' toughness and protection for 5 targets. And the radius is pretty decent, so you don't have to be right on top of your allies to get good usefulness out of it. Skill 4 is the big light field for this book. It's also a stun break and pulses resistance. So any moves or CCs that go out on your allies, they're not going to get affected by it. Skill 3, I'll throw down a couple of these because this is your reflect. So if we're standing, like, let's say across a bridge and they're throwing a lot of like rev auto attacks, or they have rangers, this will reflect all their projectiles back at them. Then because it's probably not going to take anybody down because it procs off of your stats, but it's still no damage that's hitting your allies, so it's very good to use, especially if we're in range. Skill 2 you really shouldn't be using. It's not, you don't really want to get hit. The only thing I will say, a little like, I don't know, little thing to know is taunt. If you ever hit taunt on an enemy who's stealth, it'll reveal them. So, I'm trying to think, isn't there a rev skill that does taunt too? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I think it's in dwarf, but if you manage to hit an enemy with that skill, it'll reveal them if they're stealth. This one, the radius is so small that it's not worth it to ever use. If you run out of like Mantra of Liberation charges, the one on book 3 can replace that skill. It's just like a little cone stab, just like your elite mantra is. So if I run out of that, I'll throw a couple of those in there until my big stab abilities come back up. But you should always be prioritizing your Stand Your Ground, Hollow Ground, Mantra of Liberation, and then your book 3, because those are like your bread and butter skills. Those are the skills you want to be prioritizing over anything. I think I skipped over the heal skill, but you want Mantra of Solace for that, because it not only heals you, but it grants Aegis to your allies every time you use it. So nothing's better than not getting damaged at all, obviously. I think that's it. I try to keep it like short and sweet. Does anybody have any questions? Questions, comments, concerns? All right.
Cool. If there's no questions on that, then we'll go over Herald real quick. So Herald, again, we try to keep one in each party. That's what the build looks like. That's what's up there is dwarf. Basically, when you are doing most anything, you're going to be running around with your Facet of Strength and your Facet of Darkness running in Dragon Stance. Basically, that's gonna pulse Might to your group and Fury to your group, so you're gonna increase your overall party damage output. Which again, as a Herald and using hammer skills, is going to be at the 1200 range. So we're helping ourselves and our Weavers and our Dragonhunters all just pulse out a lot more damage by running those. When we're just running around doing nothing, you could use Facet of Elements for the swiftness. The problem is if you have all of those going, your energy regen is non-existent. And if you added on the Facet of Light, which gives regeneration, then you're actually losing energy every second that you're in it. So, when doing, when we are in an engagement or about to be in an engagement, we kind of want to have Facet of Strength and Facet of Darkness running. Just before the fight, you want to use Facet of Nature, so that's your F2. and let it pulse for a few seconds. Again, it's going to drain your energy, but once you, by consuming that, you increase all of your boon duration. So that is going to include the Firebrand stability and scrapper stuff. Like, all of that is going to last longer. All good stuff. So we try to use that just before an engagement, and then keep Facet of Strength and Facet of Darkness running. By having those two active, you do have, it's not great regen, but it does help us keep that going. Now, we have talked, Raikou and I have talked, for the time being, we're gonna use it this way. But if we, in the future, we may just have everybody use all of their things and Facet of Nature and then just consume them all and switch to Dwarf Stance. And by using the Facet of Nature, we are going to increase all of those boons and be in a more defensive stance for any incoming spikes.
I have a question.
Yes.
I don't see the Facet of Nature on my little bar down here, so my build.
That's your F2. So where your weapon skills are, there's the little bar with the little arrows. That's your energy regen. That's your resource for Revenant. Just above that, you should see a little button. That one should be your Facet of Nature.
Oh, the tab. Okay, it's
Yep.
tab on mine. Okay.
Okay. So that's that ability. Basically, you want to hang out in. I'll go over Facet of Elements in a minute. I don't like to have it running around because, again, you have no. You can use it like running from place to place, but I would consume it before an engagement so that you've got the energy regen. But it does grant the swiftness, which can be nice for getting from place to place.
Yeah, because this character's really slow.
Unfortunately, that is true.
Makes it hard to keep up.
Absolutely. Have a good night, McBeern. Where was I?
I was trying to follow you on all that, so I hate to ask you to repeat any of it, but give me just the order and I'll write them down, and that'll help me practice it.
Okay, so when you're running around or while we're engaging, you want to have Facet of Strength and Facet of Darkness
simultaneously
going. Yep, you can have a couple of them going. Thanks, Bob. Have a good night. So you can have multiple buffs pulsing at the same time. Just before an engagement, you want to use yours, you said was Tab. It's Facet of Nature. Let it go for a few seconds and then consume it. So you'd hit that button again. And it then uses True Nature, which increases boon time, which is good. For damage, it's basically you want to be auto-attacking. You should be in Hammer most of the time. But we'll be using Hammer 2 and Hammer 3. So it's Coalescence of Ruin, which looks like this.
Wait, what do you mean 2 and 3? Oh, I got you. 2 and 3. Duh.
Yep. And Face Smash, which looks like that. Basically off the cooldown, and you're going to be using it into the largest concentration of enemies that can be found. And what that's going to do is it's going to keep our AoE damage up. It's going to cause a lot of pressure on the enemy squads, and if we've got 3, 4, 5 of us all hitting approximately the same location, you can generate a lot of downs that way.
Okay.
Okay, so that's, like I said, that's Hammer 2 and Hammer 3 basically on cooldown. Every time they're off cooldown, we're using that. And then just filling with auto attack. If we're experiencing a lot of incoming projectiles, we can use Field of the Mists. That's hammer 4. Puts a little barrier in front of you that destroys projectiles, and projectiles that go through it grant lifesteal, so it can be used to help sustain as well.
I can't see the projectiles to know when we're being. I mean, I just don't see them. So, when would be a good spot to do that? Like spam 1, hit 2 and 3 alternately, and every once in a while just hit 4.
Yeah, it's not a bad way to do it.
Okay.
Or, you know, if we're experiencing, like, if we see a big group of Rangers and Heralds coming at us, we can kind of expect that we're going to take a lot of incoming range damage.
I can't see those either.
Right. So if you just kind of periodically throw it out there, that's not a bad idea.
Okay.
Drop the hammer as your hammer 5. Looks like this one.
I love that.
Yep. It's got a long wind up. It does do a knockdown for 2 seconds, which is really nice, on up to 5 targets, and it's a blast finisher. So we can use it for blasting stealth. It's not necessarily the greatest thing, because if we can save it for CC, that's probably a better use for it. But if we're going to catch somebody by surprise, we could use it as a blast finisher for stealth.
Stealth and CC are the only times I really need to hit 5.
Pretty much. I mean, it does an okay amount of damage. It does slightly more damage than our auto attack. Yep. Like Raikou said, you can also drop it on your feet if they are charging at you to kind of stop them. You know.
Oh, okay.
It does. You can move while casting it. It has the long cast time and the very obvious animation, so they're probably going to try to avoid it, but you can move while you're using it. It will drop wherever you place it. So if you're placing it at max range and you're still backing up, it may cancel. Just be aware of that.
Question I had. Are any, like with the Ranger with the F5, the shower, if you move while you hit it, it stops it. So are there any of these like that?
There aren't any hammer skills that do that. You can keep moving and use Coalescence of Ruin, so hammer 2, without any problem. Phase Smash, once you tell it to cast, it will lock your spot. You cannot move from it. Now, during Phase Smash, you are evading all attacks. So, if you are getting caught out by an enemy spike, but you're still nearby enough, you can use that as your as an extra evade.
Huh. Okay.
As well, and 1 extra point for Phase Smash.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, avoid using Phase Smash if we're doing big movements, because, like I said, it does lock your position. But Kem, are you still here?
Yeah,
Kem,
man.
do you mind switching to one of the other teams for me real quick, and then just dropping some traps? The other cool thing about Phase Smash is it will set off enemy Dragonhunter traps. So it comes over here. If we suspect that there's going to be a bunch of traps nearby, we can kind of drop Phase Smash on it. You won't take damage because you're evading, and we set off the traps. So we can use that as an extra way to clear traps.
But I have to land in it, right?
Your skill would have to land in it. Thank you, Kem. That's what I needed. Well, I had cleared Kem's traps already, so you jumped onto a spot that would not have. So if Kem's got them, there you go. See.
Oh, is that what that little thing is? I dismantled it? Ah, okay.
Rude. How rude, dude.
Thank you, Kem.
Back earlier, didn't I?
So that's the extra cool little things with Phase Smash. if your energy runs very, very low and you just like it gets to the point that you can't cast anything, feel free to consume Burst of Strength. So Burst of Strength, when you're up close, is a good damage cleave.
Okay, where's that?
So your Facet of Strength, all of the Herald skills, when you maintain them, become a burst skill or a consume skill. So whichever one you have that's doing strength, so it's the one that looks like a chain. If you push that button again, you'll use melee ranged cone damage.
In English?
So it deals damage in an arc in front of you, but it's not very long range. Does that make sense?
When I hit it the first time, it's a chain that I'm not
So-
sure what it does.
So when you first push it, it starts pulsing might to your allies. Okay. And as long as you maintain that skill, that's what it will do. Pushing it a second time then does an AoE or does an attack in front of you. Yeah, that one.
Okay.
Okay. So Facet of Darkness becomes Gaze of Darkness. That's the one that gives Fury. And using that one will grant, will cause blindness and vulnerability on nearby targets.
Okay.
Okay. By consuming those, then you get more energy regen that allows you to use more skills. The other option is to switch into Dwarf Stance.
Okay, it won't stop.
So if you hit Escape, you'll stop auto attack. Perfect.
Okay.
Okay, so the other thing you can do is switch into Dwarf Stance. Okay, and then changes all of your abilities, but they kind of work the same way. Vengeful Hammers is this one. Okay, it swings hammers around you. That one will reduce the damage you take, deal damage to enemies, and heal you for a small amount. Now it takes a lot of energy, or it takes a lot of upkeep to keep that one active, so you can't keep it active for too terribly long.
And it knocks out everything else. I noticed like everything's going black now. That's about the only thing I can use until it goes away.
Right, exactly. So that's all. That's how Revenants work, is you have to keep your upkeep high enough to keep getting energy in order to keep casting your skills. Okay, so in Dwarf, we've got the Vengeful Hammers, which I just went over. Roads, which we've kind of gone over a couple of times. Looks like a road. Gives stability and swiftness to allies. And causes weakness to enemies, but weakness is kind of... okay. So there's that one. If we're running across a bridge, or... I will get to the Dragon Elite skill in just a second, Raikou. Running across the bridge or the top of a wall, that kind of thing. Roads can be really good to help make sure we don't get pulled. Force. Okay. So force engagement is the one that looks like a chain, and when you throw that out, it will hit the target and cause them to attack you. So you can use that to...
Why would I want them to...
A couple of reasons. First, if you do it from a range, it's going to keep them from... like, I could do it from all the way back here. So the likelihood that he's going to make it all the way to me in those couple of seconds is not terribly high. In addition to anybody that's near that target gets knocked back. So we're using it as a CC and to get rid of stability. Does that make sense?
Sort of.
So what it does is it makes them attack you for 4 seconds. But, so, like if I target Eeyore here and I use it.
Oh shit, I'm a guardian. I have Aegis.
But it can go to multiple targets. Here, let me. Okay, so Aegis is down. Now I can use forced engagement, and it can cause a bunch of. I think it changes slightly in World versus World. I think that's where we're getting. Targets near your main target should be knocked back in World versus World, as opposed to forcing them to run at you.
How did you chain more than one?
It's got an AoE to it.
Oh, okay.
So as long as they're grouped up, it will attack.
When is a good time to use it? It seemed like in a big Zerg that would not be something easy
Well,
to use.
again, in World versus World, it's going to cause the knockbacks, which is going to get rid of. So it's got a full 1200 range. So if they stand in that middle circle, I can attack them from way back here. So that's a 1200 range.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
So if I hit that one and get that sequence started, and then I run off, do they just chase me, or what do I do?
Yep. So yeah, if I use that and I move, they will move toward wherever I'm going. Now, like I said, in World versus World, I don't believe it works that way. It shouldn't actually make them run at you. But it will cause the knockback, and it will take stability off.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that's just another, like, a hit weapon.
It's another CC.
Okay.
Okay. The elite for Dwarf is Rite of the Great Dwarf. You use it. It's kind of got a bit of a cast time, but it gives 50% damage reduction to yourself and 4 or 5 friends. So if we're taking a lot of spike damage, like I know that they're about to stealth bomb us, we can use Rite of the Great Dwarf to reduce that damage by half in a large AoE.
Okay, so
And it will also break stun.
that's a good one to hit if we're being bombed or whatever.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. And then I missed 2 things at Dragon Stance. So our heal pulses regeneration. When you consume it, it makes it so that any damage I take gets converted into healing for a short time. So that's another one. If we're expecting to take spike, we can use that to get healed instead.
So it doesn't just heal me; it heals those around me as well.
No, it will just heal you.
Okay.
But like I said, any damage you take will be converted into healing. So go for it.
Okay.
So if I'm taking damage and then I use the consume, then all the damage that I would be taking is now healed. Rude. The other one we didn't go over was the elite, so Facet of Chaos. While we maintain it, grants protection. In World versus World, it will grant protection. By consuming it, it's got the really obvious animation, but it grants super speed to the people to your team in front of you, which is good from getting point A to point B. The other thing, once this is off the cooldown, is it can be used to knock back enemies. So if you're using it, and then I go to use it, and it's a pretty decent sized AoE that deals a bunch of knockback. The damage is not terribly strong, but it's good for the CC. if they're charging at us.
This is a lot to digest.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of practice. The main things to remember with the Herald are when we're fighting, you should be using your hammer auto attacks and your hammer 2 and hammer 3. Okay? And you should keep your facet of strength and your facet of darkness running until you run out of energy and you're forced to switch. In which case, either consume them or switch into dwarf stance.
Not particularly fond of dwarf stance. When I was playing it, I couldn't aim the road in the right direction and several other things. But I think maybe practice will fix that.
So practice should fix that.
Do you have it key binded? That helps a lot.
Do you have a specific button? Do you have a button?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a button. It's just that, like, let me get out of this thing. When I hit it, when I hit my key, darn, it won't stop even with escape. When I hit it, I have a hard time aiming where the road is supposed to be.
It'll go wherever your mouse direction is pointed, right? At that moment.
In Zergs, my mouse kind of goes a little wacko.
True.
Would it help to have it snap to target? That might work.
Okay.
So, when we were talking about settings earlier, you said you have yours already snapped to a target, which is fine.
Okay.
It's up to you. Or if we're, like, there's no enemies nearby, if you try to use fast with range indicator, and then you just, because if I remember correctly, you said you got an MMO mouse with all the buttons on the side, right?
Yep.
Perfect. So all you got to do is press that button and then hold it until you place where you want, and then just let go.
Oh.
That's what fast with range indicator means.
Okay.
You push and hold, you put it wherever you want, and then you let go and it casts. Takes a little bit of practice to get used to, but if you were to start using that might be a little easier for you to aim roads and Coalescence of Ruin and Face Smash.
Yeah, because I've always had trouble aiming anyway. Which one was that called? Lock to ground target? No.
So under the general options, if you want it to snap to ground target, so snap to your ground target to your current target, that was one of the checkboxes. It's third from the bottom in the combat movement section, or the very top. There's a drop down menu for ground targeting. There's normal, fast with range indicator, and instant. I find fast with range indicators probably the most convenient.
Which is the one that you hold it and then release when you want it to hit? Because I think that's going to be easier for me.
That's fast with range indicator.
Okay, and then allow snap. Do I uncheck snap?
I personally don't use snap. I don't like it. By not having it, it may allow you to aim your things a little better, because it's going to go where your mouse is instead of where your target is.
Okay. But either way, it's going to work with the release.
Yep.
Press and release. Okay.
And then I'll just go through the other weapon set. Should be sword. Oh, I didn't mention all of your stats should be Marauders for this. So all of your weapons and all of your armor and all of that stuff should be Marauders gear. For
yeah, I don't have any of the good gear yet.
I would say it is better than Berserker. So Berserkers, you're going to get a minor increase in damage, but you've got like 6,000 less health.
I just got a bunch of random stuff right now because I just have made this little girl.
I've got Celestial because I boosted him. I don't know if that would work for
So
now.
Celestial would probably work. The only problem with Celestial is you just don't get a lot of stats of each. So you're going to be Squishier than Marauder. So Marauders is target gear if we can. Berserkers is cheaper. It's going to deal more damage. But like I said, you're going to be squishy. So either one should work. But aim for Marauders if you can.
Give up yet?
I'll go over sword skills real quick here before we call it on the Revenant, if that is okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so sword skills, if we get into melee, you want to auto attack basically as much as possible. Okay, try not to interrupt your auto attack chain. So your 1, 2, 3 strikes. Your first 2 strikes cause vulnerability. Your third strike deals heavy damage. So try not to interrupt that if you can. But if you do, it's really not a big deal.
1, 1, 1. I mean, are you?
Yep.
1,
So if you
okay.
just press 1, your character should just keep attacking, right? There's 3 skills in that auto attack chain. So if you just push the 1 and just leave, it should just keep attacking. Your sword 2 is a whirl finisher, and it chills enemies. So it deals an AoE. We can certainly do a practice. It deals an AoE and chills enemies, so it makes their cooldowns longer and makes them slower moving. Where we start to run into trouble here is Sword 3. So Sword 3 is a teleport to multiple targets. It's an evade, but it will drop you wherever your first target hit was. So if you use it when we're getting into a big fight, it could drop you in the middle of the big bads, and you could take a lot of damage. So be very careful with Sword 3. I would say avoid using it unless we're in really small engagements.
Sounds good.
Okay. Sword 4 is a large AoE cone. Deals good damage and will immobilize foes. So it's a good way to take out some stability. And Sword 5 I would avoid, again, using it in most occasions because it is a shadow step. So again, it'll teleport you in, but then you gotta get back out. Deals significant damage though, so you can use that to chase down one guy or as a finisher on somebody. The only other note I have is Facet of Elements, which grants swiftness under the Dragon stance, is commonly used to cleave downs when you consume it. It's an AoE. It does burning and some damage. So
What was that again? Where?
So Facet of Elements. It's one of your Dragon stance skills.
Alright, let me get back in the dragon.
Okay. It looks like a little dragon thing normally. So while you maintain it, it makes you run faster. It gives you swiftness. But when you consume it, it's an AoE that looks like that. It deals damage and causes burning. You can use that to cleave down. So if we've got a whole bunch of downs in the middle of a Zerg, you can quick use and consume elements and just keep moving and attacking somewhere else while that deals damage. So I'll give you a chance to look over those real quick. Here, Gil, and then we will take the Heralds into the red team. And if everybody else goes blue, please and thank you. When did all these heralds get here? I like it. So if you're in party 3, follow the square.
Party 3?
You're in party 2, so you'd be following me.
Okay.
And then I was just going to have the non-revenants following Raikou for the time being.
You want the team to do anything or just run around?
Yeah, just kind of move around, and we will try to deal some damage to you guys. So just do your best to stay on Raikou. And for us revenants, you should be with your hammer out, and I'm going to call for spikes. I'm going to try to lay down a target marker and call for spikes. Okay, so just to get a little bit of practice. So again, spike is hammer 2 followed by hammer 3. And then just auto attacking in the meantime. Everybody good?
I think so.
Perfect. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1, go. So spike on circle, spike on circle. Get back up. Let's let him res. You guys could probably all go invulnerable so that we don't outright kill you.
Question while they're doing that. Something I hit makes my whole screen turn sideways. Do you know what that would be?
Makes your screen turn sideways?
Well, like I'm going forward, and all of a sudden I'm going to the right or the left. It just turns me, so I don't know what I've hit that makes that happen.
So if you are using hammer 3, so where you're standing, set hammer 3 over here on arrow. Just face where you're at and use hammer 3 on arrow. And tell me if that's what you're talking about.
Okay.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. No, not exactly, but yeah. I can't make it hit hammer over there.
It may be out of range, just hit over in that direction, but it moves your camera. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, it moves the camera.
Okay, yeah, so that's part of the way Face Smash works, unfortunately. There's not a lot that can be done with it. You could just avoid using Face Smash, but it is a significant portion of damage.
Yeah.
Okay, all of you guys are invulnerable. Save you. We'll start again in 3, 2, 1. So you guys stay on me, over here. Yep. Be attacking. Good work. And then spike on arrow. So. Okay, and then drop the hammer around arrow.
Ugh.
We'll let him move a little bit, but keep attacking.
Can't do that.
Try to stay on me. Okay, I want to spike on heart. Over here. Spike on heart. 3, 2, 1, spike. Alright, we'll call that. So Gil, is that causing a lot of problems for you?
No, I just not very good at aiming.
And that'll come with practice.
Yeah.
But if it's not too disorienting, that's kind of my main concern with you.
No more than anything else.
Sounds okay. Okay, so we'll start it. We'll start here on me. The way this one will work is Raiku's they're gonna come in and they're gonna drop everything basically on top of us. What we should be doing here is using consuming our facet of light, so that's your heal ability, and then pushing them, using and consuming the elite ability, and then we'll switch into dwarf stance and try to make sure that we don't get pushed too far back. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Think so.
Okay, go ahead.
Give up yet?
Basically, we're just trying to use our defensive rotation here. So then switch, and we can use right of the Great Dwarf. You can use roads. You can use vengeful hammers.
Or you can die.
We're trying not to die, but yes, you could do that.
It's always an option.
Okay, and we'll call that.
So defensive, switch to dwarf,
So
and grow up right
Yep.
in the Great Dwarf. And the path.
Yep, so that one's going to grant us stability and swiftness, right? Your heal cleanses conditions. It's kind of a moderate heal in and of itself. But if you're in Dragon stance, your big things are using and consuming your heal skill will turn any damage you take into healing for a short time. And using the elite as a knockback for some CC. Night, Eeyore. Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you.
You're
Bye.
Does that make sense for a defensive rotation from Herald?
Yeah.
The only question is timing. How long? I mean, between you just slap them one after the other, or is there? What are you waiting for before you go to the
So-
next thing?
If you're expecting to take a whole lot of damage, stealth bomb, portal bomb, that kind of thing, as soon as they appear, I would be using, essentially double tap 6 to get your infused light to negate damage. And you could, especially if they're right in our face, double tap your elite, so 0, to grant the protection and cause the knockback. And if they're still in your face, definitely switch to dwarf, hit your elite, and try to put roads up. They're gonna stealth bomb us, so we can kind of see how that.
You meant the facet of nature, but you're talking about the little thing on the end. Okay.
Correct. Oh crap! Here they come.
Need some healing here.
Okay, so that's basically how that defensive rotation works. And I know I need work on it too. We, as a group, as a guild, need work on our defensive rotations. So thank you for getting us to do this, Raikou. Any other questions, comments, concerns, gripes, or issues on Herald?
No, but I'll probably ask you all these questions again later.
It's all good.
I wrote as much down as I could, but like I said, I'll Short-term memory is a little sketchy, so I may ask you again. It's okay.
Yep. So we will switch back to. Yeah. Why are we thrusting people? Rude. We'll switch back. We'll put everybody back on green. And then I will go over the Weaver here for Seal. At least as best as I can do that for you.
Sounds good.
Target identified.
Alright, Seal. So, you should be... Your target gear should all be Marauders as well. Okay, Berserkers will work, but then you're extra squishy. Like, extra squishy, because you're an elementalist.
I have all my gear set up on them.
Perfect. Let me bring up the... Do you have the build using Fire, Air, and Weaver?
Yeah, let me just...
Okay, so my understanding is that a lot of what you are going to be doing... Perfect, that's what I'm looking at too. Perfect. So for the Weaver build, you are using staff, correct?
Yeah, double staff.
Awesome. So if you can... One of your staves should have the Bloodlust Sigil, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so you want to use that one while we are kind of getting around in our first couple of fights so that you can build that up. And then switch to the other one. I know you can't switch in combat, unfortunately. So once we exit combat, you can switch, and then you will keep that damage buff.
Yeah.
What you want to try to keep doing is keep yourself in kind of fire and air is a good combination, or fire and earth kind of as your secondary one. You are going to spend as much time as you possibly can at max range in the safest position possible, trying not to have things drop on your head.
Yeah.
You're going to drop a lot of your kind of fire fields, and just generally speaking, we're going to be blasting a lot of that stuff anyway, which is fun. Fun for us anyway.
Yep.
You want to spam your skill 2 for your fire fields and damage, and staff 5, especially if fire is your secondary attunement, because that'll give you your meteor shower, I believe, which will deal a boatload of damage, assuming that we can keep you safe.
Yeah, I can triple the range with 4 and the lightning signet.
Awesome.
Flash.
And I unfortunately don't have a lot of information on it. I've been trying to watch some videos so I can kind of help you out with that. My biggest understanding of the Weaver is trying to work on your positioning and dropping the big AoEs. Your utilities, obviously lightning flash, I would primarily keep that for defensive purposes, repositioning. Your Unravel. I've seen some builds using Unravel and some builds using... I can't remember what the other one was, but there was another skill that other people were using instead of Unravel, that instead of getting the boons from your stance, it was just applying more damage. Glyph of Storms, I think I've seen, for another
the
large
extra
AoE. Yeah.
Unravel's just nice to have.
Absolutely. Your fiery greatsword can be used to help reposition as well. Yep, exactly. So keep those in mind, and obviously it's all ranged attacks with some burning, so always good to have. And that's kind of what I've got. What are your questions? What can I help look up for you?
What do you want to have, like, defensive rotations? Do you want me to be using, like, water healing skills when we're going defense, or is it just better to go healing with attack?
So I think if you want to throw in some water for the bursts and things, that's great. But if I'm not mistaken, your Earth will grant some protection, some stability and stuff with that, right?
I think
Some
it's
of your Earth
single
stuff?
target stability.
Is it?
Yeah.
So even that will help you survive. And we've got enough buffs kind of going around. If you're all the way in the back, you may not be getting some of those to begin with. So I may stick with Earth just to have some of those extra buffs for yourself as a defensive rotation. If you want to throw it on and you've got some time for some water to help the rest of us out, great. Otherwise, I would use Earth and best defense is offense kind of thing.
Yeah.
Positioning is going to be your key. And when I'm commanding, I'm going to do my absolute damnedest to put you in a position that will be beneficial. I'm going to be trying to pay special attention to where you are and where we're engaging from. So,
Got it.
other than that, did you have anything else? Like I said, I'm actively looking for more Weaver stuff to help with any questions that you have, because you're our one and only. So,
Yeah. I think that's the main thing, was just like more the defensive stuff.
Okay. Bryko, did you have any of that? Okay, prefer Earth. Yep.
Yes.
Stand your ground.
Alright, so, are there any other questions, concerns, anything else anybody wants to go over, if anything that we've gone over tonight, or that you think we should go over, or anything like that? From anyone, feel free to speak up.
I think I mostly need someone to just hold my hand and just tell me what to do.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to do more trainings like this, maybe once every couple of months. And we will obviously probably have more / different people trying slightly different builds, anything like that. If anybody has any questions, concerns, feel free to hit me up here on Discord, whatever. If you have other build ideas, things you would like to see or try, please send me the build. Let me know what you're trying to do with it, and we can see if we can work it in. Other than that, I think it's going to just take time and practice from all of us to kind of get to where we need to be for World versus World. We're getting better every week. We just need to work on staying on tank, on defensive rotations, and working on that.